Chapter 1. Tessa couldn't believe what was happening. Her eyes filled as they lowered her mother's small casket into the ground. Its pure white color contrasted with the East Texas red clay dirt that she had always hated. Even though her mother had been sick for several months, nothing could have prepared Tessa for the loss. Not even the new friends she had made in her hometown of Fairplay, Texas, could ease her pain. They were all here to support her today. Savannah and Billy stood the closest, each of them holding a sleeping child in their arms. Maggie was closing in on 5, while Audrey was just coming up on her first birthday. Both of the girls were dressed in dark gray dresses that Tessa had helped her friend put on them earlier that day. They matched their mama perfectly, in every way. The West clan was close behind her. She could hear a couple of the younger boys ask their daddies when they could take off their church clothes and have some pie. No doubt, their mothers had baked plenty of pies for the reception that was happening shortly after the burial. Tessa's eyes moved back to the simple white box and sighed. Her father's fingers brushed hers, and she reached out to take his hand. When had it gotten so frail? When had her parents grown so very old? She glanced over at him and saw him wipe tears from his eyes with his white handkerchief. Carl and Leslie Keyes had been in their late 40s when Tessa had come along. She had been a surprise of their lives, and, according to them, a blessing. She supposed that, if they had been younger, she would have had a better chance at things. Her love for her parents had never wavered, but she had still dreamed of a family full of children with parents young enough to enjoy them and hip enough to help her through her troubles. She glanced over at her father and smiled when he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Your mother was so happy to spend the last few weeks with you," he said softly. "I should have come home sooner." He shook his head. "You did right, finishing the semester. She would have wanted that." A tear slid down her face. Her father reached up and, with a shaky hand, wiped it away gently, just as the preacher finished talking. "The Keyeses would like to invite everyone out to their house for a luncheon to honor Leslie's wonderful life. If you need directions, I have a printout." He waved a small stack of papers Tessa had printed out on her father's computer. "How are you doing?" Savannah asked, while shifting Audrey in her arms. "Good. Do you want me to take her?" Her fingers itched to get a hold of the baby again. Savannah must have guessed it, because she gently moved her sleeping daughter into her waiting arms. The baby felt good snuggled up next to her. Even with the added heat, Tessa felt a little more centered. "I hate the circumstances, but I'm thankful to have you back in town." Savannah smiled over at her when she brushed a finger down her daughter's dark head. "I'm not." She bit her lip and nodded. She didn't want to admit to her friend that she wasn't sure how long she planned on staying. She knew she needed to be here for her father, but just being back in Fairplay, Texas, unsettled her stomach. She stood next to her father, holding Audrey as everyone passed them with words of encouragement. Then she handed the baby back to Savannah and made her way towards her father's sedan to drive home. "You don't have to stay in town on my accord," her father broke in less than a mile away from the church. She glanced quickly over at him. "What does that mean?" she asked, turning her eyes back towards the road. He took a deep breath. "I know how you feel about the people in this town. Well, most of them. Anyway, I don't want you to feel obligated." She stopped him by reaching over and taking his hand. "Dad, I'm where I need to be right now. I'm no longer a little girl afraid of what others think of me." "I can see how much you've changed." He smiled and patted her head. "You're no longer our little Teresa." She cringed at the old-fashioned name she had always tried to hide. "No, I'm Tessa now." She smiled and squeezed his hand. "Tessa," he sighed. "Much better than Tracy." He nodded. "God knows why they started calling you that." He glanced out the window and retreated into his own thoughts. Tessa knew why they had called her Tracy, knew exactly who had called her that, and remembered the day that Tracy had died, the day she had jumped from the bridge.